No, I always loved this car in the barn when I saw it. And I always wanted to ride in this car. And even though it's been running in my lifetime, I have no memories of riding it.
No, you don't.
Because I was a baby when you first got it.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of me with the car. And then when Chris got it running, I never rode in it. I never even saw it running when Chris had it running. I just knew he had it running. So I'm excited about this one. What's that going to do? Maybe we can get it back going again.
I think you can. I think it'll.
Welcome to the Sleeper Dude YouTube channel. Those were just a couple clips from the last video where we delivered my grandpa's 42 Ford back to him, and we brought this 1928 Model A here. And now we're gonna get started on this thing. And Ralphie, he's at basketball practice, so we got Squeezy here, and we're gonna get started. We're gonna walk around this thing and show you what's up with it. So I talked with my grandpa a little bit about this thing, and this car has been around my whole life. He bought this car in 1977, so before I was ever born, he owned this car. He said back then he paid $1,200 for it, and it was, you know, in really good shape. I'll put a picture in here to show you guys what it looked like. But he bought this thing in 1977 for $1,200. Said it was sitting on the side of the road in Middle Tennessee, and he just had to have it. He drove it for a number of years there. I think for about 10 years or a little bit more. He drove it to little local shows and stuff like that. And sometime, I believe in the late 80s, it got parked in a barn on his farm. And that's where I remember the car, because I got to ride in the car when I was a little baby, but I don't remember that. And so he had the car in a barn, and I grew up on a tobacco beef cattle farm. So this car was sitting in a barn, and we had rows and rows of tobacco hanging in the barn above it. And I would stand on the fenders, stand on the hood of this thing, and hang tobacco. So that is what broke some of the roof bows. That's why the hood's kind of beat up on top, because a lot of people stepped on this car to hang some tobacco up. So this is a 1928 model. I believe the 30 and 31 models had the marker lights or parking lights on the cowl. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between these cars. I think they made them from like 27 to 31. And then in 32, they came out with the, you know, the 32 Ford that everybody knows with the iconic grille that's super cool. But let's dig into this thing and see what we can find. Now, we have sat in it when we moved it here, but not much to see in here. Seats obviously have been recovered. You know, Papa's put some some floor mats in upside down. I love the little seats. Looks like it's got a car cover. Not much to see in here at all. A lot of these cars had wood structure to them, as you can tell. And I actually owned a 1919 Model T center door sedan. If you look that up, they have a door right here in the center. It almost looks like a stagecoach more than a car. I had one of those that I traded into a few years back, and it was completely wood frame, and all the pieces of it were individual strips of metal, like one here, one there, one there. And I ended up channeling it, chopping it, all that stuff, but never made a single video on it for some odd reason. Let's open the hood and see what we got in here. I purposely have not opened this thing because I wanted to wait and do it when we got started on this thing. So we got the belt on there. I love the little two-bladed fan, and they have these crazy tough radiators in them. But, you know, I'm sure it's probably 6-volt positive ground. Got a generator. Do these have a water pump? Maybe that's the water pump right there. I know some vehicles back in the day didn't even have water pumps, where they would just get hot and the heat would somehow circulate it. You don't want to touch that right there. It'll light your world up when this thing's running. Just gonna take the hood off this thing completely. Well, that makes that thing very easy to work on. We got an old-timey carburetor here, which appears to not have an air filter at all, which is just my style. That looks like it's been replaced with a rubber hose right there. Now, our 2N Ford tractor, if you've ever watched the video of us getting it running, it had a distributor up here in the very front. So at least this guy is up on top. That makes it easier. And this should be a gravity-fed fuel system. So let's see what's in the tank. I think it looks good in there. Oh, it's dry as a bone in there, son. Nothing. Well, I guess it's better to be dry as a bone than to be full of old fuel. So that's good. At least it's dry. We don't have to have any old fuel we got to clean out. So these things have mechanical brakes. So it's kind of like a go-kart. It just has rods and linkages and stuff like that. So thankfully we have no brakes we have to rebuild on this deal. And when Hot Rod Hoarder came by here the other day, he was looking at these casings and pointed out something really funny. Look at the size on these things. So they made this casing to replace everything from a 4.4 inch wide one all the way up to a 5.25. But that thing's got them dub deuces on it, son. If you was in a rap song in 03, that's the right kind of hoop to have. Well, it looks like our spare casing is flat. My uncle told me he thinks he took this off of here at some point and put it on the back. Got a single tail light there. It's kind of neat with the yellow lens. But so the story was, after this thing sat in the barn since the probably late 80s, it sat in there until sometime in the early 2000s. And my Uncle Chris got this thing out, got it running for my grandpa. In about 2004, 2005, he thinks, he brought this thing back to my grandpa. And at some point, my grandpa says he had a little bit of an issue with the carburetor, he thinks, trying to get it to run. And he parked it in his garage. So it sat in a really nice garage since about 04, 05. So it's been about 17, 18 years since this thing has ran. But enough talking, let's get working on this motor. I love how everything on these old vehicles has a grease fitting. Let's see, we can start out with the dipstick. This is the shortest little dipstick I've ever seen. Well, it looks like our oil looks clean, pretty clean, and it looks like it's in the operating range. So that's a good start. Man, these old dipsticks, I mean, they could double as a weapon. Look at that. I guess that's what, that little tension there is what holds it down in there. But if you didn't have a knife, you could kill somebody with that darn dipstick. Let's go ahead and break into this distributor. Man, what a funny way to have plug wires. It's like plug straps. It's not even plug wires, is it? That's funny. That thing just has no notches or anything. It just sits on there. Got your old fabric wrapped wiring. Man, what a funny setup. I guess you knew whether your plug wires were good or not when you can see them. So this is funny. This is your rod that goes to on your steering column, and that advances and retards your timing. So you had to advance or retard the timing mechanically off the steering column. Okay, will you work the little rods there? And let me see which one's which. So that one there, keep working that one on the right side. Well, I don't see it doing anything. Where's it going to? Oh, that's the throttle. Okay, the one on the right's the throttle. Now work the one on the left. Okay, so that is your ignition timing. That is crazy how much movement that has. And that thing really moves a lot considering how much timing that is you're giving it and advancing it. That is a very interesting set of points right there. I've never seen a setup like that where you have a big long screw that goes through there that has the point contact on there. It doesn't really meet up flush right now. It looks like it needs to be adjusted in. I'm gonna go ahead and take the plugs out of this thing and put a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil in it. This is a 15/16 spark plug. It's a big boy. That one wasn't very tight at all. Golly, that plug is big. You could swap a piston out through that hole. Well, it looks typically sooty like they all do. There's a look down in there. You can see the valves, because you should have the valves on this side and then the pistons are on that side. Not a very desirable situation for making power when your air and fuel is coming in this way, making a complete 180-degree turn and doing the same thing to get out. But they run, they work good. Well, normally I need like a funnel or, you know, some sort of bottle I can spray this in there, but as big as these holes are, I can just pour it straight in. Well, we got that poured in there. Of course, I spilled it on the very back one. We're gonna let that soak for a little bit and try to loosen this thing up. I noticed I got an exhaust manifold crack here on Papaw's old car. That's no good. Apparently this thing doesn't have an oil filter on it. I was looking around and I don't see anything. It should be some old canister style filter. I've noticed a lot of engines back then, it was like an option. Like you could get an oil filter on a cheaper car if you paid for the option, but a lot of them didn't have them back then. See if we can find the battery on this thing. Isn't it under the floor? Seems like these cars had them under the floor. Yeah, it should be under here from memory, from playing in this thing as a kid. I'm telling you, this was always my favorite car that my grandpa had. I just always used to sit in this thing and play as a child and, you know, shift the gears and push the pedals. You know, you guys did it too. I will say the carpentry work right there is top notch, of course. My family, not me, but my family, they used to build cabinets for a living, so they got used to using wood. Well, at least the battery's unhooked. Somebody did that. We got some bungee cord action here to hold it in. Man, I wish I had a handle on it. Don't you hate batteries that don't have handles? Come on. We got some kind of animal action here. I don't know what that is on top of that battery. Well, I hadn't looked at this. This thing apparently has 28,000 miles on it. You know, I wouldn't think this is 128. Cars back in this time weren't made to go 100 and something thousand miles. What is that right there? I don't know. Well, we've given a little bit now to set with that marble mystery on it. Let's see if I can get any kind of action out of this motor turning over. Oh, there it goes. Well, it moved a little bit. There we go. It's being harder to turn over than I thought it would be for such a little engine. We must have some sort of rust or something in there. It's only going so far and stopping. Keep turning. I wish we had the old hand crank for the front of it, but he doesn't have it. That would be helpful right now to have that. We weren't getting much movement out of that throttle when I was pulling on it there, and it feels like the throttle is hung up. It is not wanting to move at all. The choke moves, but not the actual throttle. Maybe I can turn it over better like this. I don't understand what's making it stick right there. Now we've switched to the rarely seen double 3/8 extension setup. There we go. Okay, let's bring it up now. I think that's a little better. Yeah. There we go. We must have a stuck valve or something. Feels pretty good. I want to go ahead and clean up one of these ugly spark plugs a little bit with a wire brush, and we'll check the gap on them. It looks like the gap is a little bit wide to me for an old car like this. Well, they're gapped right at 35 thousandths, and that's what I read online they should be. Check out this spark plug gapping tool. I bought that off the Cornwall truck last week, and I fell in love with it. Okay, let's get these big fellers back in there. Man, they really shrunk down spark plugs over the years, haven't they? They aren't nearly this big anymore. I'm just excited that this distributor is so easy to get to and the plugs are so easy to get to, because some of the cars I've worked on are not nearly this easy. It feels like our points gap is good. I got a 19 thousandths feeler gauge in there. According to the internet, it's supposed to be between 18 and 22. So hopefully we're good with that. Well, I guess you guys noticed that I left the rotor out the first time I snapped all that together. Hey, happens to anybody. Could happen to anybody, you know? Well, I guess I better address the carburetor issue now. See, yeah, she's locked up solid, unfortunately. I didn't expect that. I mean, this thing was stored inside, but it has been, you know, whatever it has been, 17 years or more since it has been driven. Oh, now that is super cool. What a genius way to hook that up. It just has a little notch in it, and that is so easy to take off. Everything back then was hardline, wasn't it? It's I mean, it's a great way to do it. You have less issues out of it usually with a metal line going all the way from, you know, the tank to the carburetor. At least those bolts aren't stuck. It looks like it has a gasket made out of old buffalo hide or something in there. Okay. There we go. Well, it doesn't look terribly dirty down in there from what I can see. Well, it looks like Rocky wants to come visit. Look at that, right over the fence. Come on, you can help me with the carburetor. Come on. You had a good day today, Rocky? Huh? Well, I'm actually gonna clean the outside of this carburetor before I tear it apart, before you guys panic. Rocky's gonna help me. Right, Rocky? Oh, there you go. Yeah, knock the stand over there for us. Very black. Back up, Rocky. It says Model X, and it says made in the USA, Tillotson. Now, I'm familiar with them for making smaller carburetors for like, you know, little Briggs and Stratton engines and stuff like that. Oh yeah, it's gonna shine up nice. Just needs a little scrubbing. Right, Rocky? Quite a bit of trash in that carburetor on the outside because this box is completely clean. We're gonna give it the old flip and start it back over. Okay, let's crack the seal here. Speaking of seals, I hadn't bought any seals, so I hope I can save this gasket between the bowl and the top of the carburetor. The other one, I'm not really worried about this one. I can remake it or form a gasket it pretty simply. You don't eat oil dry. It's not good for you. Oh, there we go. Well, our needle and seat, they appear to be functioning right there. And what's our bowl look like? Well, it looks like it's had a lot of dried up old fuel down in the bottom of it. Very similar to the old 42 Ford was. All right, that's breaking it loose. Get down our jet. It's working. It's got this cast aluminum elbow that goes on to, I guess, get to the breather. It looks like it has thread locker on there. Come on. What else is holding it? I don't see anything else with that set screw. Okay, well, doesn't appear to have any gasket. Look where that set screw has crushed that down. Well, that would not have been good to crank this thing up because it's hung completely wide open. Let's see how many turns our idle mixture screw is. That's half, one, about 1 1/4. You always want to check that before you take that out so you can set it back to the same spot. So I've moved on over to the vise now, and this thing is super stuck. I think I'm going to put a little bit of heat on it and see if we can get it to free up with heat. Now, I don't want to heat this up too much because, you know, I'm sure it's got some sort of seals in here. I don't want to mess that up, but I do want to try to get it heated up just enough to maybe get it freed up. Heat always helps with stuff like this. Oh, there we go. Heat always works. Didn't take a whole lot either. Well, that'll help it too. PB Blaster fixes everything. Okay, let's get this thing back together and see if she runs. I guess I'm gonna have to make my own gasket for this thing. Put our needle back in our seat there. Put our float pin back in. This is what controls the fuel level in the bowl. It stops, just like your commode, when it gets up so high, it stops the fuel from coming in. This sets your idle mixture, air fuel mixture idle. Pretty simple setup. These early carburetors are very simple. It's kind of amazing how well they work. Since we don't have the breather for this thing, I don't think I'm going to put the elbow back on it for now. I'll check with my grandpa, see if he has the breather for it. If so, we might end up putting it on later. I'm trying to work, and look where he's at. Up on the table. Get down from there. Oh, come on, Rocky. Not the tools. You're not going to the next table, are you? That's not a very stable table. Oh, you're wanting the Vainhas. Look at that. He is plumb crazy for some Vainhas. All right, if you'll get down, I'll give you some Vainhas, okay? Here, come on. Like moss to a flame, huh? Come on, don't jump on my engine. All right, come on. I'll feed you some Vainhas. There's you some Vainhas. Let's get started making this gasket. The only thing I have around here is this cork. I'd really prefer to have that black colored gasket material, but this should work for this thing. So I'm going to take this socket that's the same size as the hole here and try to punch this out with the socket. There we go. Same process here, just a smaller socket. And we got a gasket. Got the carburetor put back on there, and I'm not gonna hook the fuel line up yet until I'm gonna run some fuel out this line to make sure we don't have any trash in the fuel system, which thankfully this car makes it so much easier with this no fuel pump, short fuel system, you know, no hydraulic brakes. Yeah, once you bought them when it's running, Rocky, he was very helpful when installing this carburetor, I'll tell you that. No, you'll break it. Well, finally we got Ralphie's help out here now that he's back from basketball practice and changed his clothes. That's the floorboard. Yeah, look, see, you got no floorboard anymore. Work that throttle on the steering column and see. Let's see if it works now. Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, it's working good now. Okay. See, before Squeezy was working the throttle there, and it was moving up here, but not out here on the carburetor. So this is what he does, guys. I don't know if you know this. You guys may be worried. He puts stuff like that in his mouth and then just chews around on it and spits it back out. So all my tools are just covered in goat slobbers. He doesn't really try to eat all this stuff. He just wants to nibble on it for some reason. Okay, so we didn't realize this, but it does have a actual gas pedal and the lever up here. So you have, that's your cruise control then, huh? Up here. That'll be your cruise control. Oh, yeah. Let's see if our fuel system is working. I'm assuming this is a fuel shutoff valve. Maybe that's some sort of clean out. Maybe that just catches the trash. You guys let me know. Maybe we'll find out here in just a minute though. You're still getting nothing over here. Maybe this is a fuel shutoff then. Well. Well, I didn't do anything. Maybe if we take this loose, maybe it's our line clogged up. Maybe we can get fuel out of here. That's not our problem. This right here proves I'm definitely a millennial. That looks like a fuel shutoff valve to me that I didn't realize was under here. Let me try to get this thing freed up and we'll see if we got fuel now. That was it. That's the secret. So hopefully that'll get whatever trash was in our lines out. Now I got a real problem. Oh. Hey, shut it back off. Shut the valve off. Can you flip it back up?
No, I don't know how.
Here. There we go. Did it stop? Okay. You think you can make it? There he goes. Grandma's gonna be so mad at you when she sees this video. She's gonna end up calling me. Here you go, buddy. Okay. Now we should get fuel out here. There we go. So that should be enough to flush out the fuel on. All right, can you shut it back off, bud? This right here is the sediment filter, is what they're usually called, where it just catches the trash in that bowl before it gets to the carburetor. And then inside there is your actual shutoff valve. Well, I think we've got everything ready to go. And the only thing we need now is the battery. And I thought I had a 6-volt battery here in the 2N Ford tractor I could steal. And when we walked out there to look at it, it's 12 volt. I forgot that thing's been converted to 12 volt. We've already delivered my grandpa's his other car, the 42 Ford, so we have no 6-volt battery from it. So we're gonna have to go to the store and get a 6-volt battery, and this battery cable is broken too, which even though it's grounding, this should be a positive cable because these things should be positive ground. Well, we've all loaded up in the Kid Hauler 9000 and we're gonna head to Rural King. They're a couple towns over from us, but they got the best deal on batteries, so we always end up going there because we're cheap. That's why. Scooty, are you excited to get to go? Huh? You got your outfit on? I chose the fishy flops tonight. I felt like it was the best choice for the winter conditions.
You didn't wear socks with them?
No socks with them.
It's 29 degrees.
These things are catching on though. I saw that Mighty Car Mods wears these now, so it's catching on.
Started a fad.
Started a fad. Somebody had to do it.
I knew we did.
$50, that's not bad. It's practically a winter wonderland out here for Tennessee. This is about the most snow we get around here. Get her done, son. Well, we've made it back to the compound here, and I'm going to change out this ground strap. It's funny how it attaches to the transmission like this. It's an odd place for a ground strap. How in the world doesn't this have a handle on it? Gosh, I hate batteries that don't have a handle on them. Well, this is going to be the first time it's had power hooked up in 17 years. It sizzled a little bit. Hope we don't let the smoke out of her. Oh, this is a headlight switch, Ralphie.
Oh.
Right here. We was wondering. I think the horn's the middle button, but they said it didn't work. That's probably why it was sizzling. Remember, you don't need to tighten battery cables. You just twist them on there. All right, Ralphie, pull the choke. And this should be the starter button down here, right in front of my fishy flops. So we got the choke on. I have no idea where to set the ignition timing. Let's try. Okay, first time in 17 years. We'll see what happens. Well, turn over. Well, I've tried the ignition timing in several different spots. It doesn't seem to like any of them. Maybe I should turn the choke off. Okay, maybe we're not getting spark. If you'll hold on to this, I'm gonna crank it over.
I think that would like shock me to death.
You don't want to fall for that? Okay, we're gonna have to check it a different way if you won't fall for that one. We may not be getting spark. It didn't seem to want to hit at all. Push it. Okay, try it again, Ralphie. I'm not seeing any spark at all. We're gonna test it again. Fire right out of the coil. All right, turn the ignition on, crank it, Ralphie. Crank it. Yeah, we got no spark at all. One-sided wing nuts that you take off to get to this wiring for the coil. Come on, it's a little stuck. Can't believe this is actually plastic, as old as this car is. Okay, it's showing we have 6 volts there, so we do have power to the coil. So now we're getting a signal from the points to it. What the heck? Well, there's what's wrong. Our engine is turning, but our points are not. What's wrong there? What in the wide world of sports is going on there? So what does that drive off of? It has to drive off the camshaft, I would think. Okay. That is the weirdest little setup. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you turning?
Give it just a little.
That is not good. I don't know if a little is the answer. Looks like this 9/16 bolt on the side is what locks this distributor in place, I think. Well, what's holding it now? I pulled that bolt all the way out now. Is it moving at all? Last thing I want to do is break Papaw's distributor. He put me over his knee in a heartbeat, I guarantee it. We sprayed some PB Blaster on this and let it sit for a little bit, so we may have to get some heat on this to try to free this thing up. I just don't want to break anything. That's what I'm worried about, breaking something. 2 pry bars. I finally got it to pop loose just a little bit. Come on, get the rest of the way. There we go. Here, see, you can see it's. So what is so? Ooh, that is extremely rusty and corroded. Wow. Oh, it's locked up. I hope it hasn't hurt something down in the camshaft and valve train stuff that drives this. Okay, well, that's good news. It actually is turning down there. So our cam gear and camshaft is turning. So how would it not break this shaft by it staying still? I hope it hasn't broke the blade off that down in there. So this thing looks like it came off the Titanic. Do that, look at all that junk. And it is froze up solid. Man, I didn't expect that on this. I mean, this car sat inside. It's not like it sat out in the weather. Maybe there's a way we can free this thing up without having to buy a new distributor. Couple of things I noticed while I was just getting under the dash there. Muskogee Central High School parking permit from 1967. Wow, that's pretty neat. And under here, is this the heater? Do you like slide that open to let a little hot air from around the engine come inside the car? I hadn't noticed those 2 things. Well, since I'm a total noob to Model A stuff, apparently this just unthreads. I was worried that there was wires in here that I was gonna ball up and kink up and break, but apparently there's not. This just touches inside there, so you just unscrew it. That's all it is. It just has like a brass contact in with a spring. It just unscrews off there. How neat is that? The rest of this engine isn't this dirty. because that stuff right there don't need to be in the engine. Apparently we have the long shaft model here. I wonder how much, oh, well, I saw it move. Look at that rust falling out of it. That's incredible. I wonder why that seized up like that. I know these things take oil. This is a little oil inlet there. But I wonder why that seized up sitting inside. Well, PB Blaster fixes everything. So I'm gonna spray this thing full of PB Blaster and let it sit a little bit. Well, it's been a couple hours now, actually. And we let this thing sit, and we're going to try it back on. It still has some tight spots in it. It's not perfect, but I don't know what to do aside from, you know, buying another distributor. And I'm sure it'll work itself out. Well, we've got this thing back together. It's got I believe this is called a capacitor in here. It's got a screw here and a screw here, which attaches to the base plate. And then that big wire cable deal goes in here and pushes against that same base plate. It's very strange. And this is how it advances. And if you turn this, it pops out of here. Push in on it right here. Hey, he's turning it. Okay, maybe we're saved. Well, that makes me feel a lot better. I tapped on the top of this a second ago, right here, and it looked like the shaft moved down. So I guess when the motor turned, but this wouldn't, just push the shaft up, and that's how it kept from breaking anything. I was really worried it had broken like the gear on the camshaft or something down in there. But it looks like we're okay. Now I just got to figure out how to time this thing without the correct tools to do it. Well, now we're going to try to get this thing at top dead center, number 1. You take the timing pin out and push it back in there, and then spin the motor over, and you'll feel this thing hit a dimple in the cam gear. Oh, right there. Go back. All right, let me show you what we're looking for here. I'm turning the, see that? Do you see it dimple? It go into the dimple? Hold on, let me back the motor up just a little bit. Right there. So right there is a little tiny dimple on the cam gear, and that means we're at top dead center, number 1 cylinder. Here you go, here's that on. So there's a special tool they make to time this thing, and I don't have that tool. So we're going to time it with my eyeballs is what we're going to use to time this thing. So my plan for timing this is just kind of point it at the number 1 cylinder, and if it's on top dead center number 1, it ought to be close. So I did a little research and figured out that this also like turns the fuel flow on or something. So this is supposed to be out like 3/4 of a turn when you crunk it, and then you tighten it back down or just barely have it on while you're driving. So I don't even know what that is, but apparently that's a thing. Fuel on under here. Give it like 3/4 of a turn here. Pull the choke. Got the ignition on. All right, let's try. We also have the ignition timing all the way up in the retard position, and we're gonna give it just a little bit of throttle. cranked right up after that. After it caught us so much from the distributor, I must have got the timing really close. It liked a little bit more advanced than what I originally put in it, but let's get the door open and see if this thing will move. That's the first time I've ever heard this car run, and my grandpa's had this thing my whole life. I'm so excited right now. I've been wanting to drive this thing forever. We're gonna put some air in our casings because they're about flat. That thing looked like a steam engine sitting there running, didn't it? Man, it smelled like crazy. We'll take her down to the general store.
Ooh, okay, I'll fit.
Are you guys ready?
Yeah. No.
It hasn't drove anywhere in 17 years. All right, 3/4 of a turn, a little bit of choke, ignition retarded, ignition switch on, starter buttons down here somewhere. Oh, don't like that.
Does it got gas?
Yeah. What's it doing? It likes some timing. Okay. Hopefully it don't do like a Rambler. Is this first gear? Come on, girl. Come on. Oh, there's some. Do we have brakes? Of course we have brakes. It's mechanical brakes. It's a little bouncy, huh? Mom had to get out so we could get this on video from the outside. We're gonna drive this thing around here. This is reliving a childhood dream for me. You don't know how many times I want to do this right here, drive this little car around, and I've never got to do it. What do you guys think? It's a little different, huh?
Yeah, weird. Very bouncy.
Yeah? This would be what it was like 100 years ago. Yeah, if you were born 100 years ago, this is what you would be riding into church or school or whatever. Pretty tight back there for 3 people, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This thing is so fun. Now I rode in a 34 Ford. My dad's friend's Baker's 34 Ford, but riding in little cars like this, I have not gotten to ride in a few. I think I rode in a Model A coupe when I was in high school. A friend of mine had it. Oh man, everything's so stiff and mechanical. We'll go oldest first. Okay, we'll clutch pedal in, all the way in. Just don't be worried. Look, this is first gear. Brakes off. All right. Let out in the clutch, and once it starts pulling, just let up. Okay, we're going. What do you think, huh? I'll give. You like it?
Yeah.
It's different, huh? You're doing good. You're doing great. Push the clutch. Push the clutch. Give a brake. Push the brakes. There you go. There you go. Go. Oh, don't just dump it. We're not drag racing. I said once it starts pulling, give it split off to the clutch. You gave it a little too much, a little too quick.
Well, I'm a sick.
I'm gonna say there's not very many 13-year-olds that have drove an original Model A like this. What do you think?
I'm a lucky person.
It's a great car for cold weather. With the roof, it's really nice.
So luxury.
Come on, turn the wheel, turn it.
I already know how to drive.
Oh, you already know how to drive?
Yeah.
Are you gonna ride? Alright. Push the clutch in first. There, you're in first. Alright. Go ahead. Oh wait, the emergency brake was on.
That explains.
Alright, let me try this. It may be flooded. This has so many levers. I'm not used to the levers. Alright, it's flooded. Brakes off. We're good this time. There you go. Don't give it much throttle because it's a little bit's a lot. A little bit. Give it a little bit of throttle. Oh, oh! Oh, here. Be easy on the throttle. Here, let me do it. Okay, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Can I do this?
No. You don't need any gas. You gotta know. Turn it hard. It's hard to turn, isn't it? It's very hard to turn.
Steering. It's not fun.
You're doing great.
I'm good. Are you pushing it?
No, it's kind of sticky. It's like you give it just a little bit of throttle and it takes off. What do you think, Ralphie?
It's a little hard though.
It's in neutral.
Oh. It's a little hard though.
The steering's stiff, isn't it? What
hard to do it.
wah.
Wasn't that bad?
Not bad.
Hard to do
You
it.
want to drive it?
Yep.
Okay. Here we go. I'm gonna work the clutch for her. There you go. It's hard to steer, isn't it? Like it?
Yeah.
Look a little bit to the left. Don't hit the galaxy. Hard right. Alright, back to the left. Turn to the right. It's weird, is it not like driving a big car, a newer car? Do you like riding in it? Alright, let Daddy get in there. Move her off. No, it don't need seconds.
I just want to see if it would work.
I'm just glad we have brakes. Man, that was so fun. I'm not used to a car that I have to turn my fuel off. Well, that was definitely a childhood dream fulfilled right there. So temperature gauge, do anything? I don't see it doing anything. Man, it runs so good too. Like, it seems like all the flatheads we've redone on the channel and got running, they always run super smooth when they run. They either run or they don't. And once they run good. You gotta heat up your vainillas.
Yeah, they're a little clumpy.
They get a little clumpy when they're cold vainillas. Well, guys, I can't tell you how happy I am this thing finally ran. I was really worried when we had the distributor problem that we had a broke cam gear or something internally in the engine. But it worked out really well. I'm super excited about this one. I love this car. We'll be making more videos of this car. We'll probably make the next video will be us getting it cleaned up and getting it out on the road, changing the oil in it, stuff like that. That's why we didn't drive it all that much. We want to change the oil in it and get it done. But you know what we do? Time to crack an RC Cola and a Vanya. What are you guys worried about? You act like I've sprayed you with it before. But you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at SleeperDude88. And we have a second channel, SleeperDude2, the number 2. So you can go there. We put up short clips. I show a little bit of what I do for a living. As always, we appreciate you guys watching. You can buy the merchandise below, or you can click on my username and then click on the store button. Also, you can click on the playlist button. It shows you all my videos sorted out and organized. And, almost forgot about you. So make sure you subscribe. Only like 14% of you guys are subscribed to me, I figured out recently. But if you subscribe, you'll get notifications when we put out the next video of this car. We have like a dozen other projects too you might be interested in. Sorry guys, didn't mean to hog the RC Cola like that. So drink your RC Colas, eat your Viennas. They're healthy. And as always, pour one out for your homies. Here, Wawa.
No.
Yeah. You don't want one? Come on. They're barbecue.
No, I don't like the barbecue.
It's manna from heaven.